Financial inclusion is a bigger opportunity. You have to bring in everyone into the financial belt. Fintech is going to play a big role, whether it's artificial intelligence or blockchain or robotic process automation. These tools are already there in the financial services. Destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. This is what exactly I learned.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Learning from Leaders series. I'm joined today, as always, by Peter Van Am, author of Before I Was a CEO. And today we have the privilege to welcome a good friend of EU Business School and an alumni, Dr. Seetharaman, the CEO of the Doha Bank. Peter, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learning from Leaders. It's a new month, and we have a new guest, although it's a little bit a guest that we are welcoming again. Dr. Seetharaman has a very strong tie to EU Business School. As a matter of fact, even has an honorary degree and a doctorate from EU Business School, and in that sense, certainly someone to look up to. But also, and most importantly, Dr. Seetharaman is the CEO of the Doha Bank in Qatar. He manages a company that is active in some 20-odd countries around the world and manages about $30 billion in a balance sheet. So that's quite something. And Dr. Seetharaman, we're going to talk about all of that, of course. But I want to start perhaps by asking you, how are you? Because we are, of course, meeting you at a time of COVID crisis. How are you, and how's daily life in Qatar right now?
Thank you, Peter, for the introduction. Very generous. It's my pleasure and privilege to be an integral part of this interesting combination of people around the world. And first of all, let me wish you and your family safe health. May God bless you. The EU is an extension of my livelihood. So I'm part of the EU family. My family is safe, healthy, but truly reflecting the characteristics of this pandemic. We are all quarantined. My mother is in India. I am sitting in Doha. My first daughter, who is working for JP Morgan, she's in Dubai. The second daughter and my beloved wife, she's in New York. So it's truly we are enjoying the transition and then global connectivity, and we stay together as global citizens.
As I say, together at home, as they often say in this crisis. Now, of course, you're in Qatar, and Qatar was one of those countries that early on seemed to have a good grip on what was happening, but could not avoid, as so many countries where I am, Switzerland, could not avoid an outbreak of the virus. What's the situation there right now? I suppose people are still quarantined, and is the health situation improving?
Absolutely. Qatar has managed it very well. See, looking at a global picture, you have 7 million cases, 400,000 deaths. That's huge. Qatar's reflection in terms of actual numbers is as follows. We have tested nearly 270,000 people for a population of 2.7 million, almost 10%. When it comes to tested positive, it's around 75,000, and 50,000 has been sent home. They're okay, treated very well. They're back to normalcy. 24 to 25,000 is still under treatment, and the mortality rate is very, very low. That is 66 numbers. That says it all. Qatar is a country of substance. It has got a huge healthcare infrastructure, and timely attendance by the government and the other associates, including hospitals, have been exemplary. It's safer place.
And so good to hear that the health crisis then is getting under control. Now, of course, as some countries around the world are, as they say, reopening the economy, reopening social life, the question, of course, becomes what next, and what has been the damage, not, of course, just in public health, which is the thing that matters most, but also in terms of the economy. What's your what's your view? What has been the macroeconomic impact, and what do you expect the recovery, if there is a recovery, a swift recovery, what do you expect that to look like on a global scale?
Well, it's an extraordinary great recession, as they call it. 2009 crisis was only confined to financial crisis. It started as a financial crisis, liquidity crisis, moved into a funding crisis, then it moved into solvency and sovereign issues. This is an absolute, the pandemic, which is a reflection of great recession after 1930 depression. In 2009 crisis, it was confined to only the advanced economies. Emerging markets were holding good. They were
That's right.
Incremental growth over 60-65% of the productivity. That was terrific, holding the balance. Now, this is a very, very big challenge for the global community. I think the technocrats, the politicians, the economists, the bankers are all coming together to bring this overall balance. Now, governments have taken measures in terms of economic progression, and they wants to make sure that disaster recovery turns into business continuity. Fiscal measures have been taken. Liquidity and policy measures have been taken by central bankers, improving the liquidity, affordability in terms of debt servicing. And
liquidity,
also,
meaning there's, banks, central banks have put money into the market. They've where there's a shortage of money, they've said, let's print some more dollars and let's make sure that there is, that's what they call, right? Liquidity means that there's enough money to go around, enough cash to go around.
Absolutely. Individual or institutions, you need to make sure they're not crippled by this crisis and it's not going to result in solvency. So liquidity essentially to hold the balance, sustain the balance, and definitely there are initiatives taken across the globe. Europe has taken 5 trillion entanglements. Qatar itself.
Unprecedented, right? Unprecedented amounts of money that are being put into the economy. And if you would look at that as an individual, you would say, if I go overnight from having, maybe $1,000 to having $3,000, then surely I'm going to be spending a lot more money. And people see that around me and say, well, this guy has a lot of money, so I'm going to charge him more. So in normal times, that would lead to what economists would call inflation, right? Things get more expensive, if you will, because there's more money to go around. Are you afraid that we're going to see this now because at a macro scale, there's so much more money to go around?
Well, that hard money will transcend individuals' hands. They have to have purchasing power to hold the sustainability. But let me put the numbers in prospects for you. The global growth has been marginalized by IMF at 3% contraction, not growth. Contraction of 3% in April. World Bank last week said it's 5.2%. Today, OECD said very clearly it is going to be 7.6% negative.
On a global scale.
Global scale, when it comes to, every single country is going through, no exception to the frame. Even emerging markets, which were said to be performing between 1 to 2%, these are indicators. But
everyone goes into what they call a recession, negative growth. Every country almost in the world.
It is contraction in substance and disinflation, and purchasing power, trade or investments or banking or finance is completely crippled in global terms. So how do we reinvigorate the liquidity? How do we ensure business sustainability comes in? How do we ensure humanity, is not taking total toll? You have to make sure business has to endure its values. Sustainability in terms of humanity has to come in. Human development, economic development, social development, environment development, all need to converge to make sure we don't lose this planet yet. That's the kind of pandemic it is. It is a serious issue. This is one time in the century has cropped up. We all are together to see that we bring in sustainability in global norms, ensure productivity, performance, and humanity values are.
So you say, we have this major economic crisis all over the world. First time that, in probably 100 years or more, that there's been an economic contraction, as you call it, negative growth everywhere. In response, banks, central banks, governments, they say we have to put money into the market. We have to provide cash. Of course, at some point, that's money that needs to be repaid. If that's government spending that money, that is debt and it has to be repaid. And then the question, of course, is what do you use that money for so that you can actually have the ability to repay? And you say if we look ahead, then what we have to do is make sure that we invest that money into projects like sustainable projects. You put it into human development, you put it into social development, and that way you make sure that over time, if we look back in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, we can repay that money and we can say we used that moment, that was a very negative moment in time, we used that for a positive change.
While we look at the tragic human loss, let us also look at the positive sides, which is going to get evolved not in the near term, but in the medium and long term. You're going to have digital governance in total prospects. Digital governance is going to help you for digital access in every form and substance. Today, you can have agroforms and again, complete measurements of food safety. Poverty elimination, this could be a tool for you to become more successful. 5% digital access can enhance carbon emission reduction. Nearly 538 million tons of carbon emission, 240 coal mines will be subject to. Essentially, we are seeing the possibility of greener postures.
Greener economy, a better economy, a more inclusive economy.
Online education, gender equality can come in. Education for all, hygiene is going to improve. We are also going to see the global partnership in terms of justice going to come, because commercial disputes today are being listened to in terms of digital governance. So all sort of value addition is also evolving. Our purpose
it's possible. I hear you, Dr. Seetharaman. You say it is possible. Now, a skeptic might say, or a critic might say, I've heard this story before. I've heard this story after the financial crisis. I've heard this story, when we had, the dawn of globalization, when the Berlin Wall fell. I've heard this story so many times before, and yet, we're in a world that is unsustainable, unequal, and is not doing well at all in terms of public health either. So how do we then make sure that this time we get it right? And let me maybe ask it more specifically. What do you do, right? You manage a bank, huge bank, $30 billion in assets, active in 20 countries. So you have an ability. You can go in and you say, I'm going to give loans to these kinds of projects. I'm going to provide credits to companies that are doing the right thing. So what does it mean for you? What has changed in your activities in the last couple of months that you say, I clearly see we make that shift to the greener economy, to the more inclusive economy?
Peter, we have to understand. We have to embrace this change. This transformation is here to stay and add, reasonable, changes in your personal lifestyle and professional lifestyle. Nobody can deny it. So we have to accept the change, adopt ourselves. The biggest discovery of this crisis is human beings can alter their style and substance and adapt to changing dynamics. And that's the positive attitude we need. First, accept it, then you transform it. That's very important. Right. So when it comes to in global norms, that's what exactly we are converging in global terms. It's a global issue. We need global solution to start with. When it comes to the financial institutions where I'm engaged in, I have a 5-pronged strategy. One is remedial management. I need to make sure from a disaster recovery, I move into business continuity. Number 2, I have to ensure
remedial. I want to, because it's a difficult term. I've never heard it. Remedial management. That means you're faced with an immediate crisis and you have to remedy it. As a bank, as a company, you have to take some action just to make sure that you keep operating, right? And that's remedial management. Step 1.
Absolutely. Number 1. Number 2, I have to redefine the business model. Every bit of working model is changing. Your office on-site, off-site. And again, when it comes to banking, wholesale or retail or treasury or investments, every bit of banking process is changing. When it comes to transaction-based processing, everything is converging on digital. Nobody wants a brick and mortar. From brick, it's going to click. We have to understand.
It means people used to come into the bank. Of course, they were already moving. This is really me walking into your bank, right? And I say, I would like to have this kind of money, etc. Now you say that move had been going on to digital. People were doing this online more and more. But this crisis, you say, it has accelerated that, right? Obviously, you can't go to the bank anymore. So that's number 2. You have to adapt your processes and your business model to make sure that you can deliver that new digital banking experience.
Absolutely. The third thing is, of course, revenue you have to enhance it in multiple form and substance by collaborative models. It's not going to be individual institutions. Now, more and more, you create a value chain by collaborations, truly reflecting the global opportunities, and you have market access. It's not territorial integrity in substance. You have to go beyond borders and see wherever there is a value creations, you have to collaborate with
it. So now we get to the gist of it, right? You say step 3, we have to work on the revenue model. This is the dollars, right? This is where the rubber hits the road, as they say. And you say, as a bank, previously I was working in a competitive environment, one company versus another, one country versus another, and now I have to go to what you call a collaborative model. What does that mean in practice? If you can give one example, what does that mean in practice?
If you say you're running a financial institution, it has to be an integrated financial service, banking or insurance, stocks or mutual funds, local or global. You have to integrate them to make sure you offer as a one-stop window. And that's the solution. So,
and therefore, because you're going to work together, for example, with a fintech company that offers a certain solution, and previously they may have offered this on the side as a separate product, and you say, you know what, I'm going to collaborate with these other financial services providers, and I'm going to make sure that as a result, you as a customer, you have a one-stop shop. You can do everything with Doha Bank.
There's less choice. Either you innovate and collaborate or die. You want sustainability, you have to look at the convergence criteria to make sure you come to terms.
So I get all of that. Makes perfect sense. And then the sustainable part of it. What makes this more sustainable? How does this lead us to a more sustainable world?
As I said, you have opportunity to rationalize it. The world is becoming flat. The compensation practice is going to change. You pick up the best of skills, whether he sits in Bangladesh or Barcelona, doesn't matter. It's a skill matrix, time sharing. So the global opportunities in terms of recognition of building a knowledge economy, knowledge society, knowledge management is going to play a big role in terms of scientific measurement.
So that's the inclusive aspect, right? Talent is everywhere. I can now hire people when they're based in India. I can hire them there and still have my bank operations in Qatar. That leads to a more equal economy and equal societies, globally more inclusive. And then the final part, and I come back to this because I asked you before, how do we transition that? How do we get to a more sustainable world? How do we get the carbon emissions down? How as a bank can you say, I'm now going to make sure that I finance green projects as opposed to something else?
Well, it's a question of aligning yourself with the changing dynamics. As an institution, we have already done it at multiple levels, whether investments or lending. A portion of the risk-weighted capital should be allocated. We have done it on water conservation, for example, a significant portion that we have financed in terms of contracts, over $500 million, 500 million, 2.2 billion Qatar Riyal. We have engaged in a project for water conservation, which was inaugurated a couple of years before. We are giving at the retail level mortgage finance, green mortgage, we call it as green car loans. We have engaged in knowledge sharing with UNESCO, and we have eco-school programs.
It's simply a matter of
green credit card. We support, the recycle industries. We want small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. We are supporting them for anyone who's got the focus on sustainable projects. So all these are integral part of the overall package. The world is converging on that. That's what I'm saying. Right. Building a green economy will be our ultimate focus. You will reduce the carbon emission. You will factor the green into environment into trading, and you will create a carbon neutral society. That's wonderful.
And now my final question. I get the picture. I get the whole picture from 1 to 5. What has the COVID crisis done to accelerate this?
This is an absolute opportunity as I see it. Why? The digital governance is ultimate. It includes financial inclusion is a bigger opportunity. You have to bring in everyone into the financial belt. You have to, whether rich or poor, irrespective of race or caste or creed.
Everyone realizes there's no choice. You have to do this.
Absolutely transcended borders. It did not spare advanced countries or emerging markets or developing economies. It has crossed all the borders. Territorial integrities have been broken. Caste, creed, religion, as I said, race, everything has been. It is a human crisis, human pandemic. No necessary tools are there for us to transform. How? What are your sustainable goals? You need elimination of extreme poverty. zero hunger. Here is an opportunity through digital governance. Online education, as I said, education for all. We have an opportunity.
We're doing that. We're doing it right now.
As we speak. Again, healthcare, it's happening. All the now e-tailing, everything is happening in terms of medical transcriptions to execution. We have seen the reflection in terms of carbon emission, even during this transition phase. So what you cannot do, e-courts are happening. E-court, commercial disputes are getting resolved in tandem by digital governance. So all that we need is peace and justice. Institutionalize digital governance as a culture. Bring in the knowledge economy. Make sure you bridge the gap. Income inequality should be reduced. That's our next focus. Globalization was triggering the income inequality. Now, this pandemic will set a tone to reduce the gap. That's why
it's a reset. It's a reset, and we realize we have to redo things. Dr. Seetharaman, I know this is true, but I want to shift gears now, because you don't just say this. You live this. This is your life. You talked about providing opportunities to people from wherever they are in the world, rich or poor. And we often hear people say these things, and we say, are they just saying this? Are they really understanding what it is to be poor and to come from a third world country? I want to talk about you now, because you are the embodiment of this. I want to take everyone a little bit back into time, and I want to tell your life story, because you were one of those people that lacked opportunity, that lacked financial means, and you turned through hard work and through getting chances, getting people to believe in you, getting those opportunities, you turn it around. Where do you come from? You come from southern India, Tamil Nadu, I think, right?
That's right.
And when you were growing up, what was your situation? You come from a village. You told me a village in Tamil Nadu. Do you come from a wealthy family because you're a banker, or how do I have to see it?
Well, my parents were intellectually rich. My father was a teacher as such, but economically, we were in a downtrodden circuit. That was the challenge. And integrating your heart and mind is eternal. This is what I learned from my father and mother. Right. Once you integrate, you have an internal drive. Education and meditation is what I learned at a young age. Education and meditation converging, you become a good person. My father said, my parents have advised me only one thing. Only if you're a good person, you will create good value and the purpose for which you are living. So education, meditation, and integrating your heart and mind, you consciously drive your values.
You drive
incidentally, everything will come to you. This is a message I got, and I trusted my father and mother as my first God. Father, mother, then the teacher, and the respective religious God. So in my language, if I have to use the expression Mata, Pita, Guru, then Devam, God.
Yeah. And you say, I came from a downtrodden. You came from a poor background. But you say, I don't look at it that way. I was intellectually rich. I had parents who believed in me. I had teachers who taught me. But you still have to get out of that. I mean, this is not an easy plight. So what happened? So you I think you were 13. You're going to high school, and this is really a key moment in your life, because you understand, even though you're very young, that education is probably a way out, is a way out of poverty. But to get education, you have to succeed in tests. You have to get a scholarship. So how did that go for you?
Well, I know once I start integrating my heart and mind, consciously driving my way forward, you consider vision to look at the past as an experience, present as an opportunity, future is going to be your drive. Destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. This is what exactly I learned. So what I need is persistence. I have also recognized there are educated derelicts all over the world. That are full of talents. What is omnipotent is persistence and determination. This is exactly the lesson I learned. The minute I understood this is what I need, I start recognizing I have to have the best of knowledge, the wealth I can create, the value I can create, and the society I can add value. and essentially all my stakeholders, including my parents, I can add value. This is what the purpose of my creation.
But when you're 13, you don't know it in that way, right? Like it's the challenge ahead of you was rather simple. You have to succeed, be the best student, get the best grades in the hopes of securing a scholarship.
That's right.
And that's what happened. You succeeded in the tests. You got a chance, and you were able to go to a good high school where you get better education. And that
I did say, I have to intervene here. I did say to my parents, I will not be studying in this village school. I'll go 10 kilometers away from my hometown and study in the district headquarters in the best school. My parents couldn't afford it. My mother pledged her jewels and is paying my school fees. That was a starting point for me to bleed inside. And I said, listen, one thing I realized, the love and affection is driving this world. When I saw so much distress they have to go through, for the sake of love, I said, my mother is my inspiration. And I will see that my mother and father, they're comfortable. So I said, I will go for the best school in town. I went to my headmaster and I said, I need to study in the free hostel. I cannot come from a village paying this kind of money. My father's package is limited. So he said, okay, if you can do that in all the subjects as number one, I will give you the free hostel for next year. That I was studying 8th standard. Then it's a test of God. The last day of the exams, and mathematics, 9 o'clock, I was supposed to get a bus and reach at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I was supposed to write the exams. It didn't happen. Till 9:30, I didn't have the bus. Bus was break down. So essentially, I took the cycle from my home and I was driving for 2 kilometers again. The cycle got punctured. Yes, I ran for 8 kilometers. I wrote my exams. I went to the hall at 10:25. I was crying, and I sat in the exam hall. The examiner gave me the question, and I finished the entire mathematics question for 3 hours in just 1 hour. That was the determination. When he saw the answer, he was stunned. So I got admission on the same day. So essentially, this is the driving force: knowledge, hard work, and determination is driving you
and then afterwards, of course, you had to overcome this incredible challenge in order to get your education. Now, of course, now you're 18. Now you have to go to university. I mean, like the journey is not ended yet. You were hoping, I think, to go to medical school, didn't you?
Yes, right. That's right.
But that didn't work out, and you told me that had something to do also with the systemic racism that exists in that part of India.
Caste was an issue, not a racism as such. And my way of interpreting is, duty becomes a desire, it becomes a delight. You accept change. I couldn't become a doctor. The immediate option was to become a commerce professional. I know I have to, at this stage, I have to look for a professional level, that is chartered accountancy. So I chopped out changed the course, and I said, I will like. That's what I say. When you start loving what you do, passion comes in, performance comes in. Right. I was an outstanding student again.
Because of course, your dream or your hope or your family's hope was, like, so for so many families, I'd love for my son to become a medical doctor. I'd love for my son or daughter to become a lawyer. These are sort of the dreams or an engineer. Now, this was impossible for you, the doctor degree. You said because of that caste-based system, you encountered discrimination, couldn't get into the school. But you said, I have other ways to succeed, and I'm gonna study commerce. And so you went to study commerce in I think Madras University. And you get your first degree, and then, I mean, listen, this is basically where most of the people that are listening in today are. You get your bachelor's degree, and then you have a choice. At this point, you actually can go into the labor market, and you can probably make some decent money. I mean, like better than what was possible before. And then you say, I think I have to do an additional study because I want to go beyond even that level. And you say, I think I should do chartered accountant.
Yes. Let me tell you the purpose behind it. There's an Oriental saying, which was inspirational for me to learn at the time. When you aim at short term, you cultivate flowers. When you aim at medium term, you cultivate trees. When you aim at long term, eternity, you build humanity. So my vision was long term. I wrote a project report of my life when I was 13. I chalked out my life journey. I'm exactly, yes, till my final destiny. I have the judgment day, as I call it, is there in my mind. And that's what exactly I said. I said, I will not settle for just graduation. I'll go for professional educations. That's my long-term goal. So I have to
continued education. And you say, because if I want to get, really further in life, I've gotten this far. Yes, that's true. You said it beautifully. You have to repeat it, but more slowly, because I think people didn't get it. If you build for the short term,
you cultivate
flowers.
If you aim at medium term, yes, you cultivate trees. If you aim at long term, eternity, you build humanity.
You build humanity. You said, I didn't start this journey to stop at the middle. I want to go all the way. So you get your professional degree, and because you think that's your way out. This is really where you can then make a big difference. And it turns out this is true, because you get your chartered accountant degree, and because of that, you get considered by one of the big four global accounting firms, PwC, EY, Deloitte, and KPMG, and you get a job offer for PwC.
That's right. Yes. So when you say it was not an easy journey, but at the same time, I said to myself, when you have a drive to commitment to society, commitment to the family, the rest are all incidental. So duty becomes desire, as I said. I used to teach when I was studying 8th standard, 9th, 10th, 11th mathematics. When I was doing college, I was earning my own money. I was in the theater, I was in the television, I was teaching classes below the
extra mile.
I made the money, I made my economic sustenance. I was feeding the family as well to a little extent apart my father's package. And then I moved into chartered accountancy. When I qualified as a chartered accountant, and I was clear that I have to leave this country as early as possible. Then I know Mumbai, Bombay, those days I have to. There's
big cities.
Yeah, I went to Pricewaterhouse. It was a good turn of events. Even though I was fresh from a chartered accountancy, they gave me the highest position of managing an institution. Rather,
they saw in you the potential.
Absolutely.
So now you get on a track where others might not have gotten. You get on that international track, working for a big global firm in a major international city, which is Mumbai.
That's
and
right.
You get a chance now to prove yourself.
Correct.
And in a matter of 2 years, and this is of course where you have to then do it, right? Now you have to prove yourself. And in a matter of 2 years, they say, you're doing amazing work. And because you're doing such amazing work, we're gonna give you the opportunity to go abroad, and we give you a job at our offices in the Middle East.
That's right. That's when I went to
where your international career takes off. Now you've not just gone from Tamil Nadu to the big city in India, but you've been able to go from the big city in India to the world.
Correct. That was the starting point for me to step out of the country, and I got into Pricewaterhouse, Muscat. Those days it's called Pricewaterhouse Abu Ghazaleh. Essentially, though I'm an accountant by profession, my passion was more towards technology. Those days, technology was coming up very well. So I got into technology consultancy as well. When I moved into banking for a consultancy, then eventually ended up getting a job there. And the CEO of the bank was so happy to see that the project was executed within the standard time. And he said, why don't you be part of the bank? It was called Bank of Oman. Yeah.
And so now you've gone from, going into that vertical track, being in accountancy, and moving countries. Now you've jumped industries. Now you go from accounting to banking.
That's right.
And so you get that opportunity because you're in Muscat, in Oman, in Muscat, and you get to work as an accountant for a bank, and the bank tells you, I think you're a great professional, and I see you have a big interest and ability in IT. Why don't you join the bank, leave the accounting behind, and join the bank?
Financial engineering was the day. Those days, it's extraordinary convergence between banking and the accounting with the technology. So when I was trying to articulate decision support, not as an accountant, and I was trying to have report selections, I was able to do everything through automations, and the level of management information which was supporting the decision maker to be progressive and productive was the reason for my further enhancement within the bank. So he took me from simple entry to as a number 2 in the institution straight away within a span of 2 years. So that was the starting point for me to do the corporate management, and I moved from technology, financial engineering, retail, again full scale, role next to the chief executive.
Now you're in the bank. You're working already directly for the chief executive officer. Huge road traveled in a small number of years, and now you go from being an IT specialist, so to say, somebody who's involved with the digital transformation of the bank. Now comes the next challenge, and the next challenge is the bank is going to merge with another bank. The CEO has seen what you've done in terms of transforming the bank on the IT front, and I think you're the guy to lead the merger.
That's right. Business combination is a bigger learning. It's infrastructure integrations, policies, procedures, process, everything has to align. There are 2 systems, you have to pick up one. 2 people, you have to choose one. So it involves a tremendous amount of insight and put the best combination, best of everything. Then you converge as one unit. That's a major exercise, more than running an enterprise. So that gave me enough insight into the width as well as depth of the profession. So it's a consultancy come the vertical knowledge base of the profession, which was converging for me to become more prosperous as a successful merger enterprise.
That's right. You pay your dues. Merger, very difficult. Banking transformation. These are really, we can talk about it lightly, but this is hard work. This is very difficult work. But you succeed. The merger succeeds. You get, of course, rewarded. Now you've made it financially. You walk away from the bank. You're financially safe and secure. Really, night and day difference from where you come from. But what do you do, right? You're somebody you said it's my passion, it's my desire. I have the money, I'm financially secure, but I want to keep being an entrepreneur. I want to keep doing things, right? And yes. So you say, I want to start my own bank.
I wanted to set up an online bank. Those days, technology convergence, 1999, Internet City was set in, and I thought I should set up an online bank with my backdrop as in the business side as well as the technology. I should be in a position to float a fantastic online banking model. And that's what exactly, I wrote the project report. I went to the regulators and they said, listen, we don't have regulatory systems to support it. You just wait for 6 months. Then I floated a remittance model. It didn't work the way I wanted it because my ambition is to set up a full-scale online bank. And that was...
They said, no, we can't do it. Regulations are not in place. Big setback, right? Because this is what you were going to do. You were going to start your own bank. You had it all figured out, and the regulator said, "Sorry, you can't do it." Big setback. But you say, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to get over this. I accept it as it is. I can't start the bank, and you say, I'll start again as a freelance consultant for another bank. You do this.
Yes.
Big change. Now you're a freelance consultant, no longer that entrepreneur. But you do such a great job, and this is you're now based in Dubai, but you're working for the bank in Qatar. And after a couple of months, they say, you're really more than a freelance consultant to us. I think you should run the bank. You should become CEO.
It was in 2 years' time. Yes, that was a change of management, and the board considered vision has made this possible, and they found a leader in me, and they thought that instead of simple management, transformation is required to see that the shareholders' value goes up, the bank takes this momentum and ensure that customers get the value advantage, shareholders get the value advantage, and we have a transformation in substance to see that's a new...
This is it. And Dr. Seetharaman, this is where the journey, you said this was April 26, 2004.
That's
after,
right.
6 months of hesitation, should I do it, should I not? You say, you know what, I'll do it. And that's the bank where you are today. That's the Doha Bank in Qatar. You're still the CEO 60 years later.
That's right.
And you said, I never look back. I never look back from that day to today, 14 years later. You go from a bank that has 7 branches, literally 7 branches in one country, and
Well,
$100 million in assets. And now it's active in 20
numbers,
countries,
numbers are
$30 billion in balance.
Correct. See, the numbers are incidental. What is more important is give your best shot. See, you know you can deliver the best. You know you're professionals to the core, and ethical moral governance is required. And we have to necessarily make sure that we have a considered vision. Vision is important. Excellence is not a one-time act. It's a habit. Thought becomes habits. Habit becomes, character. Character becomes destiny. That was precisely my message. My message is to recognize that you have to put the right kind of seeds in you. The minute you conceive a cohesive vision, then you share the leadership, shared vision. It's not only one man, it's a team leadership. It is a team, the board, the management, and the collective intellectual capacity. Share the vision, be participative in terms of administration, and making sure you get the best out for everyone. That's the beauty of corporate management. And you come together, and you can be humble. You don't need to be apologetic. You can be bold. You don't need to bully. Right. You can be confident. You don't need to be confused. You can be wise. You don't need to be otherwise. So all that you can be firm. You don't need to be stubborn. So all those characteristics which will come to you the minute you understand the dynamics of your internal integration. Internal drive is more important than the external. The external will fall in place. This is what exactly I'm trying. From the beginning, my root cause was my convergence within myself. My ability to articulate that my heart and mind is my consciousness, and I have to recognize this convergence to make sure that I should become a good person to create a good corporate.
Right.
A good corporate can create a good society. A good society can create a good nation. A good nation
can make humanity better long term. That was the goal from the beginning. That was the journey you were on, and that journey brought you here.
That's right.
And that's a beautiful story, isn't it? I mean, we talked earlier on about, how do you create a more inclusive society? How do you provide chances to people wherever they are in the world, rich and poor? And we've now understood that that's ingrained in who you are, because that's a journey that you've taken yourself. Now, you also say, and I want to turn now to a couple of questions, Dr. Sita, from the audience, because as you can imagine, you're speaking now and you're inspiring us all. And it leads to a lot of questions. And there's people who are asking, for example, Yvette Chipatiso who's studying in Munich, or is watching from Munich. And she's asking, you have that drive, that passion, right? You have that in you. We heard that. How do you make sure that others that work for you, that they share that same passion, that they get that same drive for success? And that they understand that you have to do this digital transformation, which is something that so many people struggle with.
Yeah, leadership is all about development and innovation and value creations. It's a positive attitude. The minute you understand the leader in you is going to diagnose only the positive side of anyone you interact. It's like Andrew Carnegie once said, to take an ounce of gold, you have to eliminate tons of dust. When you aim at gold, you don't look at dust. You look at gold, and that's what you should see in your team prize. Yes, that's what exactly the drive should be. The minute you have the transparency, you have honesty, you have considered focus to develop everyone and every stakeholders. That's where I use the expression team leadership and participative leadership. It's not you. You are insignificant. As I said, the more we are humble, the higher the level we go, the more you're humble, your ability to articulate solutions becomes radiant in terms of positivity and productivity. And that's what we need. We need to have a positive value within us. Then you transcend everything around you.
And you have that, and it's true, and it's genuine. Now, you've shared us your journey, and it's been a journey that has gone from, being, downtrodden, you said financially, but intellectually rich, to being, probably intellectually and financially very rich. Now, that begs the question, and I mean, it's an incredible journey, fantastic, every step of the way, but that begs the question, Hamza Lababi asked this question. I mean, were there moments that you felt like giving up? I mean, you talked about your determination, and every step of the way you were going to make it happen despite the challenges. Were there moments of doubt? Were there moments that it was difficult, that you felt like it's not going to work out?
No, see, irrespective of the financial and material strength, what you need is, you as a person, you should not have greed. Greed is important when it comes to financial engine. You have to have objectivity to grow. Greed, pressure, where it can cost you. So what is more important? Ethical and moral governance. This is what I say to myself time and again. The minute you self-govern, the ethics are not situational. It's applicable for good and bad times, challenging times. So whatever be the circumstances, whatever be the roadblocks, you always try to remain calm and composed. You make sure you are governing with absolute ethical and moral governance. Technically, ethically.
I understand. But personally, as a person, you know, imagine you go to Dubai. You say, I'm going to start a bank. I get all the skills. I know how to do it. I have the money. It's going to succeed. And then the regulator tells you, sorry, can't do it. Sorry, just can't do it. I mean, that's not nice. That's not fun. That's not a. How do you deal with such a difficult moment?
Well, it's I came even to Qatar for a very short span, 2 to 3 years, but with the confidence and trust my board of directors have put on me and the society I like. Qatar is again a country of great substance. When I looked at it,
but when you start your own bank, and it didn't work out because of the regulator, that was a real downturn. That was, I mean, how do you, on a personal level, how do you deal with that?
Well, I'm a person always believed in society. When there is a righteousness in your heart, there's beauty in your character. When there is beauty in your character, there's harmony in you. You don't need to be ambitious beyond definition. That's what I say. My aim is not to materially enrich myself. I need job satisfaction. I need to make sure I develop, innovate, create. My purpose of value creation is to make sure that I add value to society. So everything possible, including social risk management, being part of the green banking mission in the Gulf, where 45% of the world oil, 25% of the world gas comes in. I was talking about sustainability way back in 2004. So that's the kind of drive was permissible. So that is what exactly excited me in the workplace. What keeps me going again is I love the humanity. I like everything. Every day is interesting. Every day is inspirational. Every challenge is motivational for me. So that's what exactly keeps me going.
It's incredible. I have to say, I look at that and it's difficult. I think it's difficult. And the fact that you're able to do that, I think that's maybe part of your uniqueness, because I think many other people would say, including myself, you know, if I face challenges like that, I think I'll have a moment where I say, you know, maybe I don't believe so much in the good of humanity or of this person. But you know, you're the living proof that you can have that attitude always. I want to also turn to some students that will ask live questions, Dr. Sita, if that's okay for you. And I think our first question will come from Simon Denere. Simon is Simon is in Zimbabwe, and he's studying at EU in Barcelona. And he has questions about social responsibility. Simon, over to you.
All right, thank you. Hi, Dr. Seetharaman.
Hi.
So, okay, just to say that again, my name is Simon, and I study business management and finance in EU Business School here in Barcelona. And when I was growing up, when I was in high school, I participated in a lot of responsibility initiatives, humanitarian initiatives for climate change, equal rights, equal pay, and so forth. But then, however, as I grew older, it became difficult to balance both my career and social responsibility. And as you can imagine, being from Africa, social responsibility jobs don't really provide the greatest pay, you know. So my question to you is, considering that you're also from a somewhat underdeveloped country when you grew up at the time, my question to you is, how have you been able to efficiently create a balance between running a successful banking enterprise and pursuing successful humanitarian initiatives to the point where you received the award for the best CEO of the century for peace and humanity in 2019?
As I said, only a good person can drive the change in society. So what is important is to ensure your thought leadership is full of righteousness. You care for the society. When it comes to corporate management, environment, social governance is what I took as a single-minded vision. When you start recognizing that human prosperity is ultimate and you are committed to society, you cannot enrich yourself without enriching the society. You cannot be happy without making others happy. Understand this. The minute you have that conviction and character, principle-centered values, the rest are all only design engineering. So it will come. That's what exactly the seed I put in my thoughts, and exactly I'm able to generate the energy and enthusiasm. That's infectious, because a man without enthusiasm cannot deliver that goal. So you need to, every day you have to culminate that energy, positivity in you, out of righteousness. So my focus was, even though I came from challenging times and challenging circumstances, it's easy for me to navigate. Everything is an opportunity. That's how I interpret. Every day is interesting, I just mentioned. So what is more important is to recognize you can set a design and you can convert the negatives into auto positives, even if you have stumbling blocks. That's what exactly I would inspire you to do.
Thank you, Dr. Sita. And I hope that's, I found that a very helpful answer. And Simon, perhaps we can continue the conversation with Dr. Sita also after the meeting, because we've got a couple of other questions, and one of them is from Laura. Laura Schultz from Brazil. She's currently in Lisbon and studying at the EU here in Geneva. And she wants to ask you a question about inclusivity, very specifically about women and gender. Go ahead, Laura.
Hello again, Dr. Seetharaman. Hello, everyone. So my question is actually because I was truly inspired by your words concerning the role of professional women you made during your speech on graduation day of the College for Women in Chennai, India.
Yeah, that was last year, yes.
Yes. So could you please expand a little bit more on these and explain why has your company been doing to meet a balanced gender workforce?
No, see, women participation in terms of governance is evolving to be a fine diversity exercise in terms of corporate governance everywhere in the world. And now, personally, if you ask me, I was inspired by mother to start with. Then I'm supporting women education schools I have in Rajasthan. I support them in India. And again, I'm lucky to have 3 grown-up women in my house now, apart from my wife and 2 daughters also there. So they're all, today they give me the inspiration for me to do. When it comes to corporate management, we tried within the organizations, the diversity within the framework, what is available. We are trying to bring in various segments of the banking, whether it's branch managers or middle management. We have competent as lady banking officers. So it's all happening. It's in the process, and more will come. When gender equality is what I believe in, and I am going to prevail on it. Every initiative which I am taking around the world will be confined to the universal norms of gender equality.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing challenge, I think, and we see that that continues to be one of the big challenges ahead. And when we talk about that opportunity, hopefully that comes after COVID, certainly this will be one major challenge that we'll have to address. I want to move now to Nirman Shah, who's a student in India, and Dr. Sita, from India rather. He's studying at EU in Munich, and he wants to ask you about your experience from being at EU, because of course you got a doctorate from EU. You spent quite a lot of time at EU. So Nirman, why don't you go ahead and ask the question?
First of all, thank you, Dr. Seetharaman, for providing us insights into your projects, your history, and for me, most importantly, your mindset. Now, being a current student, looking back, how would you describe the impact that studying at EU Business School, potentially in Geneva, has had on your career? And what would you say you could leverage most out of your EU experience? Well,
what I did was continuing education as a lifelong learning project. See, my association was Ignition, the association I had with Mr. Crayon's family, and a wonderful family and a wonderful friend like Dirk. was inspirational for me to engage myself when he visited Doha and he saw my work over the many, many years. Some of the Qatari students were engaged in Geneva, and they have given testaments of my own contribution to Qatar and the Knowledge Society. And at his invitation, I was addressing the commencement day in 2012. Then that was the time I had my own research work going in. 2008, 9, 10, 11, in fact, even in 2012, in the United Nations, I said the financial crisis was good for ethical and moral governance for the world, because I genuinely believed those days the financial engineering was toxic and it was designed to deceive the common man. So that was my reflection, and I did hundreds of interviews in various channels. I wrote many articles. I compiled all this, and I was waiting to give it to a professional institute where it can be merit-rated by independent invigilators. And that's precisely my research paper. And it was done in 2013, a full-scale validation in September, and then eventually they conferred me as a research scholar. So that was my experience. I've been regular visitors, spending quality time with the students across their campus, and I'll continue to do. I mean, except last year I couldn't make it. Otherwise, every year I'm there. I spend quality time to make sure. Even my second daughter was part of the mission as well. So she finished last year. Now she's in New York, as I mentioned. So it's all integral, and it's going to be a fine association. I relish coming to European University, and you look at the family. They're all as a family enterprise. That's a commitment you need. A principle of succession always operates in corporate management as well as family management. And I have seen their hard work. When Dirk was setting up the commencement day in 2012, and his children were setting up everything. They're grown up, but they're engaged in every part of it in micro terms. That was very, very motivational for me. Wow, this is a good lesson to learn, and good human beings. So that's inspired me further to consolidate my thoughts to have an alliance with this institution.
The combination of the academic and the research and the human aspect of leadership. Thank you for that. And then we have a last question. I'm sad to say we're almost at the end of our hour already. But Policarpio Porto, who's from the Philippines, but is currently, I think, very close to you physically in Doha, and is active at EU, has a question for you as well. This is about fintech, I believe. See,
good morning, Dr. Seetharaman, and it's a great privilege to have you again in EU. This is cool. Actually, as Peter has said, I'm sitting with you here in Doha. And my question is quite timely with regards to what you have mentioned to where the banking is going, hopefully. My question is, would you please tell us your take on the role of fintech on the future of banking industry in Qatar and in the Middle East in a larger scope? And how do you think is the readiness or the acceptability of regulatory bodies here in Qatar or in the Middle East?
Well, the technology and banking are together now. The convergence is already on, as we call it, as the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution was locomotive and cotton spinning. Second was, again, electricity. And the third one was PCs and mainframes. Now, it's visibly, disrupting the world. We have seen the crisis itself, how much we have come together as in terms of society through digital engagement. So fintech is going to play a big role, whether it's artificial intelligence or blockchain or robotic process automation. These tools are already there in the financial service, and it's all integrating into one stop. And technology companies are playing a big role. In fact, so much so they're even snatching the revenues of the conventional financial institutions. So the model is getting redefined, and world over, that is going to be the new order. And the customer gets the convenience, it gets rationalized, knowledge process outsourcing, business process outsourcing are all integral part of the fintech, and revenue streams are going to be segmented. Whoever has got fintech alignment will be successful in sustaining its meritocracy. When it comes to the Gulf. It's evolving to be a fine combination. We are seeing in retail space. We are now with the blockchain, it's coming in the wholesale in a large form. When it comes to robotic process automation, even Doha Bank is doing it. So we are all coming together in our own way. The government is here in Qatar, setting up through Qatar Development Bank, the FinTech hub, and we are engaged in it. Meanwhile, we are evolving as individual institutions. Finally, I think we'll have an Apex board to spring, sandbox as you call it, as we'll have a position to leverage on the overall FinTech to see that our global banking becomes more productive and positive, adding value to long-term prospects.
It's a brave new world. Dr. Seetharaman, we have so many more questions for you, but sadly our time is up. So I want to thank you now, and hopefully we can ask you a couple more questions offline. I want to thank you so much for the hour that you've spent with us. It's been absolutely inspirational. We've talked about everything from your personal life to the macroeconomic effects of COVID. Thank you so much for being with us. And
it's absolutely my delight. Since you asked my personal questions, there was a biopic done, one of my well-wishers called The Truth. It is available in the 26
We're going to
minutes.
share afterwards the video with all the people that participated in this session, and we hope we can ask you some more questions sometime soon or in real time. Thank you so much.
I'm glad I could add value to the new generation, and I'm always available as a commitment to the society for knowledge sharing. Anyone wants to reach me out, you have an email ID as a part of EU fraternity, or I'm also obliged to respond to you anytime, anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. And for a final word, I think we're going back to Luc Crown.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much, Dr. Seetharaman. It has been a pleasure. I think you have been fascinating our students with your comments. We have received a lot of great input from your side. So thank you so much, because I understand that you're a busy man, and it's always a pleasure to get 1 hour of your time to share with our students. Next for our students is next week already, where we have Dan Staven from Goldman Sachs that will be talking. So stay connected, join us next week. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.